Okay, having said all of that, then let's move joyfully to what we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani nani are the experts talking about, and how is this helpful and useful to us. So I think that this might be the first time that we are using this particular jargon term, because this jargon term, I always want to go to a different jargon term, but it's time. We need to at least define what it is that we're talking about. So our jargon term for the day is stimming. Like, how amazing is that, Becca? I'm so glad you're on board for today. So, and keep in mind that when we give you a jargon term, what we typically like to do is first give you the actual definition that we got from some, whether it's a book or Wikipedia or whatever. And then we try to give you a working definition that helps us to really understand what it is. So let's launch right into where is the controversy here. So let's look at our actual definition for stimming, shall we, Traven? Stimming, and this is the Merriam-Webster definition. So let's put that into some context, right? Merriam-Webster says stimming is a self-stimulatory behavior that is marked by a repetitive action or movement of the body, such as repeatedly tapping on objects or the ears, snapping the fingers, blinking eyes, rocking from side to side, or grunting, and is typically associated with certain conditions such as autism spectrum disorder. This is how Merriam-Webster is defining it. Now, I'm going to cry El Toro poo-poo on this in a second, but I want you to know that this is how Merriam-Webster is defining it, because this is part of what we have to overcome. Let's go to what Autism-live is defining it for our purposes when we're talking about it. So take a look at our action. It's a coping strategy that should not be stigmatized. Hello, can I get an amen? Can anyone raising of hands? So here's what I want people to understand is that the reason why we've never done the term stimming before is because it's a misnomer out the gate. This whole self-stimulatory thing, a lot of times when people are talking about stimming and they're looking at the behavior, it's not always self-stimulatory. Sometimes it's self-soothing. Sometimes a stim is something that is keeping someone stimulated enough to be present, but sometimes it's helping them to cope with the overwhelm. So I don't like the term stimming to begin with, but I understand and recognize that it's a term that is used so frequently and so interchangeably for so much behavior that I feel like we have to address it. But I believe, like a lot of behaviorists, that behavior is there for a reason, and that we have to figure out what the function of a behavior is. And so if we really want to talk about stimming, let's talk about what the function of the behavior is. And it's different for different people on different things. But if you try to sell to me that that this idea is that it's only going to be with something that comes as a disorder, I'm going to cry El Toro poo-poo, because absolutely every single one of us does things that are automatically reinforcing, which is the correct term, or this self-stimulatory. We all do these things. It is not a disorder. However, if we are only able to do the behavior and not able to do things that we want to do, then I would categorize that as being something that as a part of a disorder. But I wouldn't want to stigmatize that. And I would never just carte blanche say, well, we need to eliminate that. If I'm someone, for instance, I'm just going to take this to a whole other realm. Let's say that I say to you, I really like to eat ice cream. Ice cream is something that I do when I'm upset. It is how I cope with when I am upset. Now, you and I could have a conversation about that, and you could say to me, eating ice cream is maybe not the most productive thing to do while you're upset. Maybe there's a different thing that we could find for you to do, and we could have that conversation. But I'm not really if I just am occasionally upset and I'm just occasionally eating ice cream, then am I hurting anybody? Is it really something that has to be addressed, right? But if all I can ever eat is ice cream, and I am incapable of eating anything else, and I am incapable of dealing with my feelings that lead me to only eat ice cream, then I might feel that it's something that needs to be addressed. And if I then became diabetic because all I was eating was ice cream, it's certainly, my doctor would say, we might need to address this because now, Shannon, you're not able to go and do the things that you want to do because your health is deteriorating, right? But it would still be based on things that are important to me. It's like things can get wonkinator. And if we're really looking at it through the view of what is important to this person and what do they want to do, then I think we can have a healthier look at, is what they're doing something that is helping them, or is it something that's hurting them? And I that it's important that the person and what their needs and their wants are be taken into consideration. Yeah. So I think about the boy a couple of years ago who was in Texas, and his particular stim, and this is the jargon, how it's used, is that he has a piece of string and he goes like this with a piece of string, and that helps to calm him. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to stop acting like that's the end of the world. If going like that with a string is what helps him to calm himself when he needs to calm himself, no one should look at that and go, that is wrong. Okay. But if that young man is in a classroom and he is really wanting to learn how to, I don't know, use a Bunsen burner. Let's say that he's in 7th grade science and he gets excited by a science experiment and he wants to be a part of it. And he wants to do the thing. Then going like this with a string, he has to be able to pause that long enough to be able to do the Bunsen burner, right? So there are times when it is appropriate to intervene on something that we call this self-stimulatory behavior so that we have it be contextually something that is beneficial to the person. And I really want to be a part of a conversation when that's how we're looking at stimming. Is this behavior something? Now, you get into all kinds of gray area here because you'll have all kinds of people saying, well, doing this is socially stigmatizing because the other kids will make fun of him. I'm in the school of thought of, well, we need to work on that with the other kids. Right? But because, how about we parent those kids and say, get over yourself? Because those kids are sitting there and doing other things too. They're clicking a pen or bouncing their foot or whatever. And we're not sitting there saying, hey, stop those kids from doing that. We all have to be automatons and statues and nobody can have any coping skills. So it's a tough conversation to have. But I think if we could all put down our pitchforks for a second and just talk about individuals and behaviors and how does this behavior function for the person? And if it is a coping strategy for the person, is it the most productive coping strategy that they could use? And is it preventing them from being able to do things that they want to be able to do? So if we can look at that and go, it's not really preventing them. If it's just socially stigmatizing, I think it has to be weighed like how reasonably because I think eventually by the time people are adults, they should be able to allow other people to do other things. I always go back to the example about 2 seasons ago on Big Brother. One of the contestants was openly on the spectrum and would sit and rock. And there were 2 adult women and 1 adult male in the group who just would go on and on about, it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. And the not hilarious, but a very deeply ironic thing was that while they were sitting talking about, well, it just makes me nervous, they were rocking. And I just wanted somebody to sit down and say to them, how about you be a human being? You are rocking. How about if we tell you we're uncomfortable with you rocking? It would not be kind. It would not be right. Can we please get to the point where we are not stigmatizing these behaviors? And can we please get to the point where we are talking about this with people who don't have what is deemed a disorder, about them being more accepting of other people and not stigmatizing it? However, I also am concerned when I meet parents who say, well, my child stims by hitting themselves in the head. And so that's who they are, and that's what calms them down, and we're just going to let that be. Well, no, because they're trying to fulfill a need and they're doing it the best way that they possibly can, but that way is hurting themselves. We would never leave that alone, right? And I think that that's an extreme example, but there's all kinds of things in between. My son hand flapped. And listen, I did what I encourage all parents to do. If your child does a stim, sit down and do that stim for yourself, not with them, because they'll think that they might think you're making fun of them, but go in your room and do their stim and see what it is about it. I have a dear friend whose son splashes water, and we went in and splashed water, and I was like, man, it's so colorful. You can see the rainbow when you're splashing water. Like, get in there, try the thing so that you have a beginning understanding. You may never fully understand it, but take a look at what the thing is. Figure out what the function is. Ask yourself, is it preventing them from doing things that they really want to do? And then talk with behaviorists that are really good at this to help to find a replacement for it. Let's not just eliminate this kind of behavior. Let's find the most functional behavior that doesn't prevent them from meeting the goals that are important to them. This is my soapbox about stimming. Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.